Hello and welcome to another Big Picture Reacts episode. Today we will be covering our thoughts and reactions on the Loki trailer that dropped. But before we do, let's see who is joining us today. First up, it's our resident trailer reactor, Adam. Thanks for being here.
Hello. Thanks for joining me again. It's good to see a familiar face here on the trailer reacts, the Big Picture
Stop
reacts.
being like this.
I know, absolutely.
Next up, we have Lewis joining us here for his first reaction. Lewis, how are you?
I'm good. Nice to be the newbie on the panel, even though we all know each other for like 5 years.
You're never not the newbie on the panel, Lewis. And of course, I'm your host, Stewart. Just giving you a quick reminder that you can find us on all the major podcast services by searching for the Big Picture Podcast, as well as on Twitter and Instagram by searching for @_the Big Picture. So yes, as I mentioned, today we'll be giving a quick reaction on the Loki trailer, which will be releasing on Disney+. Adam, we will come to you first. What were your thoughts on this trailer?
Well, I was actually quite impressed because everyone was buzzing for the Loki series, and I know everyone likes Loki. Everyone likes Tom Hiddleston. I like Loki. I like him in the comics. He's actually a lot less likable in the comics. I think the best thing for his character, he's someone who you'd maybe put him with like Hawkeye and a few other people who have got like a kind of fan base from the movies, and they were never really that likable, or no one was rooting for Loki in the comics, I would go as far to say. But I do like Loki. I like him as a character. I love the kind of whole Norse side of Marvel. So I was looking forward, but I was also a bit skeptical because I thought, what are they actually going to do? Like, because I don't know if I just want to see Loki, just cause mischief again. But they've totally flipped it around. They've done this kind of different angle with the timekeepers, and that to me makes me really excited because it's something that we've just not really seen explored. The closest thing we'd say is probably we've had a glimpse of the Watchers, and we've had obviously Doctor Strange has used the Time Stone, and he's technically kind of keeping an eye on everything. But it's good to see an actual kind of authority on this, and I'm really looking forward to it actually.
Good. Lewis, what did you think of the trailer for Loki?
I found it quite interesting. Obviously, if you've watched the Marvel movies, you know what happened to Loki, and it's a shame because Tom Hiddleston, like, not to take away anything for the actors from other people, but he has this certain presence that I think others just don't have, this gravitas on the screen where he's clearly he needs to be in the universe. It's almost the same as Paul Bettany. But one thing that Marvel have like not really explained well, and it's always kind of rubbed me the wrong way, is how they conceptualize time travel and how they're going to deal with this sort of stuff. And obviously Doctor Strange 2, I think, is going to play a massive role in that. And I'm wondering if this film is going to have any sort of knock-on effects for potential plot lines with that movie as well.
Yeah, it's always weird when time travel crops up. It was a big important point in Endgame, but I didn't like how they explained it. And to be honest, it kind of seemed like they didn't really know what they were going for. They just kind of like, we've got this kind of quantum realm aspect of it, let's roll with it, which was fine for the film because that wasn't really what you were there for. But like you said, I'm really interested to see there's an organization tied to this. Obviously it's something that can't be messed with, and it'd be very interesting to see how, like you said, if Loki kind of breaks aspects of the reality, what the consequences are. I really like this trailer. It looks so good and unique and weird, and I'm very excited for this new meta multiverse look at the MCU. So future's bright. Our Marvel going places. With these MCU shows, obviously we started with WandaVision, which was pretty out there, but this show somehow looks even weirder. Lewis, do you prefer this kind of high concept content from the MCU, or would you rather have more grounded stuff like the Falcon and the Winter Soldier?
You know what? I think Marvel and Disney are in a pretty unique position where they have the platforms to do both. But I've become quite a big fan of this more abstract stuff. Now, no secret, it gets mentioned anytime we do Marvel. I'm a bit more in the DC verse. I like the kind of grounded and gritty. But I think because they have this kind of wacky side of things, or this very sort of, let's just move the camera to a whole different perspective and let's just mess it up and see what we can kind of get away with, really brings like an interesting dynamic. And I think that's why WandaVision did really well, where like even the general population didn't just see it as like a superhero movie or a sitcom. It was kind of like this uber meta kind of making fun / Dan Harmon could have written this, and you have this sort of show in like communities kind of a good example in Rick and Morty is where like they just poke fun at some of these tropes and go, let's look at things in a different way. And I love that Marvel, with like their capital, their investment, and their size, is taking a go at that.
I like the Dan Harmon Rick and Morty comparison, considering like Rick and Morty actually has an organization that also looks at time with those testicle guys. Hopefully they'll show up. But Adam, what about yourself?
Yeah, no, I have to say I quite enjoy the kind of meta style. It's someone who's a big fan of the comics, and I guess it's kind of similar to take from what I said about maybe not knowing what we're going to see from Loki into the kind of broader sense of like, well, as a comics fan, you've seen, okay, they followed almost the traditional route. You've had your kind of world crisis, you've got the team up, you've got like the end of the universe thing, and then at that point, where'd you go? And it is multiverse, and they're just embracing it. And I think it's bold, and I don't want to like make this just bashing DC, but like
fucking
just on what just on what Lewis kind of said, that DC have some amazing properties and amazing characters who could work quite well in this kind of meta style, but you just couldn't see in the way the DCU is now them taking this step, and I think it's just a testament to the kind of long game that Marvel's been playing, that they've set it up that they can now poke fun at things. It's like we said, I guess they're punching down. Disney's always punching down. Nothing's bigger than Disney right now, but they've got so big that they can still kind of poke fun at themselves and at other things as well. And I think it's good. It keeps it fresh. It also could bring in even more fans, and then the masses of business. But I have to say, I'm enjoying what they're doing right now.
Yeah, like you said, Disney can't really do wrong at this point, but the MCU has definitely benefited from that. I mean, I shudder to think if they didn't have someone like Kevin Feige, who wasn't at the helm of this ship and like could hire stuff like James Gunn, with Guardians of the Galaxy. There was a period of time where they'd introduce like Guardians of the Galaxy or Ant-Man or Doctor Strange. I remember so many people going, this is it. Nobody's going to go and see an Ant-Man film or a Doctor Strange film, but they make it work. And now audiences embrace that crazy side. We've got a universe where a talking tree is in the same universe as, Falcon and Winter Soldier, that's got real social commentary. So it's good to see them punching both sides of the weird and wild stuff, and then the hard-hitting, realistic aspect of what the stories can bring. But Loki himself, he's been around for a while in the MCU, and he has had quite a character arc already. Do you guys feel there's any more story to tell with the character? Should he have been left alone?
I would say that, like, I guess like I said earlier, that I also I kind of had that thought going into this trailer, going into this Loki series. Like, I felt it was maybe just fan service for the people who love Loki, and I didn't really know what to expect. But then I think the fact that they've taken him and they've gone with a total fresh look, which did surprise me. Like, I literally was like, oh, okay, like, it's just not what I expected. I don't think it's what anyone really expected. So I think that the fact they could take such a loved character and then do that, that shows that there's still mileage. Maybe there's mileage in every character, because they're happy to take them in different directions.
Yeah, I was a little bit concerned because obviously, like, Loki as a character throughout the Marvel film universe kind of had his arc and ultimately his redemption at the end of Infinity War and Endgame. So when the TV show gets announced, you're thinking, wait a minute, this guy's been through everything he needs to go through, and now you're going to give him more stuff, and he's kind of had that character arc. I mean, even in the trailer himself, like, Owen Wilson, of all the people, I never would have expected him to appear in a Marvel property, but he says, like, I've seen everything you've ever done. You've literally stabbed everybody back 50 times. And then, Loki replies with, oh, I'll never do it again. And it's just, I am a little bit worried that it just becomes the same arc we've had over the films in a more condensed version. But I think as long as they do it in a interesting way and continue to link it in with what's going forward with the Multiverse of Madness, aka Doctor Strange 2, and with WandaVision, and I would love it. The framework is there where all this stuff links together back around again, and you kind of get that same sort of magic you had with Endgame.
Yeah, obviously the elephant in the room is this isn't the original Loki from the past films, because when Infinity War happened, spoiler alert, we all thought Loki was dead, and that would be the end of that. Adam, do you think the MCU is setting a dangerous precedent that bringing back these characters, even if they're from different timelines or different universes. Do you think that runs the risk of cheapening death in this franchise?
I think that's a very fair point. I do think that, I think that with Loki, yeah, it's kind of been within character to cheat death. It's literally, he's done it already. So I think I know, as much as it's maybe a running joke almost, but he has cheated death, and this is just another way of him cheating death, but then maybe it's caught up with him. So I don't think that it's something like, it could cheat death if they do it with a character. So like, we've seen Captain America's arc, spoilers. And if they just turned around and said, "Oh well, he's come from another universe and he's back, and it's Chris Evans again," wow, of course we'd feel cheapened by that, But I think providing it's just a kind of Loki thing. I don't think they're going to do it with everyone. I don't think Iron Man's going to come back via the multiverse or anything like that. So I think they got to be real with it. They can't just bring back other fan favorites for the sake of it. But I think they'll be all right at not cheapening death at the moment.
I don't know, Adam. I heard that Doolittle film did not do well at all. I think Robert Downey Jr.'s he's used to that lifestyle.
Looking for another payday.
Exactly, he's going to run out of money soon, and I think he'll come crawling back. But that's obviously, we'll cross that bridge when we get there, more like. But where do you stand on this issue, Lewis? Because I know you're a bit like me. You really like a beginning, middle, and end. Yeah, you like payoff.
I would like to say they've figured a way around it by using a somewhat different version of Loki, but it does feel a little bit cheap to me. But in the same vein, if you're going to try and pull off with a character, like Adam says, you're not going to do it with, Captain America or Iron Man or, Thor even. You're going to do it with one that's loved, that you could maybe still milk some story out of. So, I mean, you could maybe have, like, the only person you really could have done it with is Loki. Obviously, we've got a Black Widow movie coming, but that's, almost like a prequel. So, one side of me is like, yeah, I don't like it because it cheapens the payoff and the experience and the storytelling that was so wonderfully done in the films over that almost 10-year period. But in the same vein, like I said earlier, I'm super excited about this sort of like meta look at, like time travel and multiverse and how this all stuff is going to work out. So I don't want to sit on the fence. I am a little bit miffed that it kind of cheapens what his own arc, and obviously I said earlier as well, whereas like he's had his story, he's had his beginning, middle, and end. Is this just going to be the same story told slightly differently? So maybe, maybe I am just a bit more skeptical of the show, that I'm willing to admit, and I'm a little bit concerned about it. But if you're going to do it with a character, the only person you really could have done it with probably is Loki.
Yeah, I just want to add, we're talking about people not cheating death, and I thought you were going to say Vision, because obviously WandaVision, we had a whole thing about, is he alive, is he dead? We don't really know what's going on, and then they've brought him back and with a white Vision, and we don't know where that's going. I was going to say it also suits the character of Loki because he is effectively the expert on multiverse, outer universe stuff, because he was fucking with Thanos long before we even knew who he was. Before we really knew who he was in the MCU. So I think it's clear that Loki's almost, he suits this role as well, and it makes sense that he's probably the only character you could bring into this because he's someone who's done it all.
Shirley even says, like, you think you can fool me, I'm always 10 steps ahead. So, like, there's two ways I think to look at that, where it's one, oh, that's how the story's going to play out, where Owen Wilson thinks he's in control, where it's actually Loki, or the inverse is true, where Loki's never in control. But it does kind of give you that sort of like cocky arrogance as Loki as a character that's kind of being played throughout the entire show. So maybe this is, Loki's ultimate plan coming to life, where like he gets away with it in the end. I mean, like that's the payoff, not what happened in Infinity War, but him having that sort of like victory, so to speak.
Because of course they've been very keen to say that this is the Loki straight after the invasion of New York in 2012, and he hasn't gone through that character growth. So whilst we said, are we going to go and see basically a rehash of Loki's character arc from then on in the films, what I would love to see is that this Loki doubles down on the villainy, because what I would actually love from this series is like Loki's presented with a choice, be good or be evil, and he chooses that evil route. I would basically love it if the good thing about Loki, like you said, is he doesn't consider the consequences of his actions, and when the consequences kind of show up, he still uses that to his advantage. He's always on the run from the next set of consequences, and I would love this show to just be just him spiraling and spiraling and spiraling until he can't run anymore. So I'd just love to see that, the ultimate consequence of his actions on a perhaps a universal scale, because now they're bringing in the multiverse. Just before we wrap things up, does anybody have any closing thoughts or any predictions for the show or for the future with Loki?
I was just going to say that, just in kind of direct opposite of what you said, for predictions, I would say that knowing Marvel and knowing the kind of character growth he's done, I think we'll get a kind of Back to the Future, seeing what he did in the main universe, this is what you could have won kind of thing. And then, that could maybe just lead to him having that moment of character development and not doubling down on being evil, as you say. But I'll hand it over to Lewis.
I'm actually kind of in agreement with Stuart, although when you said Back to the Future, I instantly just had a vision of Loki playing Johnny B. Good with a guitar.
I went old Biff. I went Loki with old Biff in the cane, like hitting himself.
But like with this show, technically speaking, if, from the premise that we understand from the trailer, Loki will have access to the entire timeline that's happened so far. So there's two things I think will happen, or I want to happen. Thing number one, I think he will see the outcome of his personal arc post New York in what we currently understand to have happened in the Marvel timeline. And because of that, he'll go, well, shit, I made a wrong choice. Fuck this, I'm doubling down, I'm going to join up with Thanos. And maybe just kind of undoes the stuff. But the other thing I'm actually quite looking forward to, and I hope they do, is that Loki has a conversation with Loki at some point throughout the timeline in those films. And that becomes the crux of the turning point of the show, where either he doubles down or he doesn't. Because I would love to see that sort of, it's a kind of not a niche trick, sorry, it's but kind of a trend where you're literally looking at yourself rather than looking at a mirror and having that dialogue, and maybe kind of opening up a bit more of Loki's character in this kind of vulnerable sense of a monologue. And that's kind of what I would love to see.
Good stuff. You heard it here first, folks. But I think that's all we have time for. So thank you, Lewis, for being here.
I appreciate you hosting this one, Stuart.
Thank you very much. Adam, thank you for joining.
Thank you. Thanks for joining me, Stuart, and being the Trailer React veterans of the show.
Here from the start. Never forget. But thank you very much for listening. As always, you can find us on Apple, Spotify, Anchor, and all the major podcast platforms. What were your thoughts on the Loki trailer? Let us know on Twitter and Instagram @_thebigpicture. And until next time, catch you later.